Look, being a man is a difficult thing to do well. You know, it's maybe like anything you specialize in. Men have very distinct challenges than women, and there's nothing simple about being a man. You know, it's the ultimate maybe conundrum. Like, you got to do this, but you can't do this. You have to be strong, but you can't be harsh. You know, you have to be able to emote, but if you emote at the wrong time by the wrong person, then you've lost all credibility. It's a fine line. It really is. And it definitely takes training and a lot of thought and maybe a lot of preparation, and you're still going to bump around. But, you know, my boys they have me, and then I have all this other knowledge. I'm thinking of someone else out there that is literally doesn't have any of that. How are they going to learn this stuff? And it feels like things are getting ramped up. Now, of course, you've got a very interesting presidential election happening and new narratives out there. But, you know, big tech is still pushing this cultural feminized version of men, and is probably going to continue to push it. So, yeah, it becomes a real challenge. And like you said, the opposite, I'm not a fan of as well. You know, just be vulnerable and talk about your emotions and cry. That's not the right thing to do all the time as a man. You know, yeah, it can be powerful if you can get emotional. Goggins got emotional when he accepted his medal. And every now and then, Jocko will get a little emotional when one of his guys is dead and he's got to talk about it. But he's not crying every day about his problems, because that wouldn't work. So it's very nuanced, getting that right. And I'm trying to get it right. And that's what I'm trying to teach these young men. But it's hard for me to do with just two.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, there's a couple of things, because I think it might be good to just talk about, like, what do we do in the landscape of chaos that a lot of men find themselves in, regardless of their age, right? I mean, I work with men that are in their 60s, and they're like, I feel like an adolescent man. Wow. I don't feel like I actually grew up. So what do we do, right? One of the things that I talk about and teach is developing self-leadership. Being able to make good decisions for yourself in a way that's going to produce self-respect, making decisions, making choices that are going to align you and create congruency within you with your core values, your morals, and your ethics, right? One of Peterson's things was like, tell the truth, or at least stop lying, right? So that's another way to start developing self-leadership. Is a lot of young men can't tell what's true for them because they're lying so much, or even just men in general, right? Where we have lies through omission, right? It's like, well, I just won't say it. This is a lot of nice guys, right? A lot of nice guys are like, well, I just won't say the thing. And so maybe that won't get me into trouble with my wife or my girlfriend. And so they subtly remove what the truth is. Getting your body into shape, do not underestimate the power of that, because it takes discipline. And it requires resiliency. And it's such a simple thing that a lot of men that struggle are undervaluing the importance of it, and they're struggling with getting that in order. And it requires that you actually rectify your relationship to discipline. For a lot of men, discipline is punishment, right? And so anytime that they don't do something, or they fail to do something that they said they were going to do, they just beat the crap out of themselves. And that punishment doesn't actually support them in developing a more resilient character. It doesn't help them develop a path, that they're walking on, and it actually erodes a sense of self-confidence. And I get this question all the time, like, how do I be more confident as a man? I get it from men that are 70, I get it from men that are 18, and everything in between. Confidence is really about competency. If you can consistently work towards a goal, work towards an aim, work towards developing a skill, and you can start to feel like you are competent at something, you will naturally and inherently develop confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of competency. It's not something that you want to try and develop on its own, right? It's sort of this byproduct feeling, right? It's like when you do something hard and you do a tough mutter, or you bench press, you hit your bench press PR. The result of that is joy and happiness. But if you're pursuing joy and happiness, it's very hard to acquire. So confidence is the same way. It's very hard to acquire if that's the goal or the outcome. So a lot of men benefit and start to see real shift and changes when they are starting to try and develop some type of competency, whether that's relationship communication, asking for what you need, asking for what you want, and beginning to slowly turn yourself into somebody that you respect. The other pieces that I'll just sort of lay out, and there's much more than this that we could dive into, is begin to confront your shadow. What are the things that you have hidden about yourself? What are the things that you dislike about yourself? What are the things that you don't want other people to know about your life, your behavior, your finances, your relationship? All the way down to like how much porn you watch, which is a big problem for a lot of young men and just a lot of men in general. So start to confront your shadow. And as you do that, what you're going to notice is that that confrontation develops mental clarity, mental robustness, and strength. And you have to start to practice in doing that, becoming a little bit more stronger mentally and a little bit more healthier mentally, because mental health is just about flexibility. And when we are in a bad place as men, we are very rigid. All the men that I've ever worked with, they don't have a good level of mental health because they're mentally rigid. The more mentally rigid we are, the less mentally flexible we are, the more mentally unwell we will feel. And then the last piece is you have to address the way that you talk to yourself. One of the biggest challenges in the line of work that I've done and working with tens of thousands of men over the last decade plus is I've had a very unique look into how men talk to themselves. And it's brutal. It is brutal. So many men are living a life of self-abuse where anytime they get something wrong, they are beating the crap out of themselves. They are so harsh on themselves and nobody knows. And so there's this kind of complicit nature with your own self-destruction, because the way that you are allowing yourself to talk to yourself, you would never talk to anybody in your life. You wouldn't talk to your girlfriend like that, or your mom like that, or your buddy like that. But the way that we allow ourselves as men to talk to ourselves is borderline disgusting. And so we need to start to develop more rules, more compassion, more empathy when we are speaking to ourselves. We have to confront what's called the inner critic, this part of us that wants to be ruthless and rip us down and tear us apart, and begin to repurpose that part, because that part is like a loyal soldier. This is in psychology, in internal family systems, something called IFS, and I'll just end off with this last piece here. In IFS, there's all of these different parts. And the inner critic for most men is like this loyal soldier that when you were a kid, maybe your dad was hypercritical and you wanted to make him happy. And so what you did was you started to deploy the same tactics that he would use. What's wrong with you? You got 95% on the test? Where's the other 5%? How come you didn't get 100? And that hypercritical nature that he started to deploy, you've adopted as a means to try and motivate yourself. It's what I call dark motivation or shame-based motivation. This is how the majority of men are trying to produce results in their life. They are trying to shame themselves into motivation. And it might work for a period of time, right? For some guys, that shame-based motivation, like you and I have been talking about, it can get us to some places, but eventually we'll bottom out. It's not sustainable long-term. So we have to be able to confront that inner critic and give that loyal soldier that's trying to help us produce results, that's trying to motivate us. We have to give that loyal soldier a new job, a new direction, a new mission, and actually have that loyal soldier work with us towards our, whatever we want to call, best self, higher self, the man that we're trying to be, the husband that we're trying to be, the father that we're trying to be, versus working against us actively by constantly tearing us down. So those are some of the things strategically, externally, internally that men can start to do. There's others, but I'll maybe pause there and see. I'd love to hear for you, like which one of those have you noticed effective for you and something that a lot of men have struggled with? Like which one of those have you seen men really struggling with?
How do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside I view is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the Investment Club.